For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss how to deal with coronavirus. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
The virus is creating some element of panic, and we know that last night the World Health Organization declared it a pandemic. But you've come out and praised the way the South African authorities have responded to the virus. Why is this, and is this adequate?
When people hear of epidemics, and especially when they cross national borders, some people some people who know history think of the Black Death and bubonic plague, where millions of people died in one or more country. And the Ebola virus was very serious, and now it seems that it's completely under control in the DRC. So what has happened is that modern medicine has advanced, and what is different about this virus compared with ones in the past is that not everyone who contracts it dies. Something like 50% of the people who've contracted it up to now have already recovered. And some people say that they're in self-isolation, they claim they've recovered. We don't know. But the evidence seems to be that people must follow medical advice and not panic. The medical advice seems to be very firm, very clear, very definite as to what you shouldn't do. And I think that when the leadership does not panic, it communicates something to the public, which is unusual for the post-apartheid South Africa. It communicates to the public that probably they can be trusted to handle this, and they don't hide figures. Every day they come with 2 more people infected, what. But when they appear not to be in a state of panic, it also makes us realize that this thing can be surmounted, deaths can be reduced, and it's also definite age groups who are more vulnerable. So in general, I do think that they are handling it very well.
But then you are questioning how basic rules of hygiene for warding off the virus can be widely implemented in the country.
Well, the basic rule that they are saying is that you must wash your hands regularly. Now, they're saying this in a country where large numbers of townships, villages, informal settlements have not got access to water or clean water. And how are they supposed to implement that? Someone was saying on Twitter that they must distribute some sanitary liquid, but I'm not sure that they are ready to do that, and that they factored in the costs. So what I find a problem is the media and the authorities, when they report on what is happening, they report on the middle class experience, that people go and they buy all the masks, and they go and they buy all the liquid, and that is not appropriate behavior in a situation where we've got to get through this together as a country. However, what is out of the focus is the experience of the majority of the population, who are living in conditions where what water they had has dried up, or that they've never had water, or the water is contaminated. So the whole major piece of advice, which is very simple, to wash your hands carefully, is inapplicable. And I'm not sure that they are considering on a large scale other forms of disinfecting people who might potentially be affected.
And lastly, Raymond, you're also on point to anti-social and racist behavior that may emerge. How do we address that and advance what you call human solidarity?
You know, in South Africa, in a lot of countries, in situations of crises, social or economic crises, people are very quick to stigmatize people. For example, the foreign nationals, when there was job insecurity and a lot of things like that, people blamed it on the foreigners for taking their jobs. Poor foreigners, not the ones in Mercedes-Benzes in Sane, but the poor ones. And in this case, it started in China, and although everyone infected in South Africa, as far as I know, not one person who's been infected in South Africa who's come directly from China. They've come from Italy and from other places. And the Chinese seem to have been very, very exemplary in the way they have practiced quarantine people. I mean, they built 2 hospitals in 2 weeks. I mean, it's amazing. Steps they took. They were very, very firm about not having, it's not in the whole of China. It's confined to parts of China. But they're also responsible about it not spreading elsewhere. They've said, these people who are coming back to South Africa, we are not sending back anyone who is not well, you see. So they're very careful about it, but at the same time here, you have some woman reporting that she was in some queue and she coughed into a handkerchief, and a lot of people turned around to her and said, why don't you go back to where you come from? And that's the sort of anti-humanistic behavior that is unfortunately part of the ethos of South Africa. Despite us being post-apartheid, we've got racism in the present situation, which emerges especially in situations where people fear, where they panic, and that's also something where the authorities need to be doing something about building human solidarity. Instead, unfortunately, the reason why you don't have water in these places is in many cases to do with, instead of human solidarity, pocketing money that was meant for these things.
Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Crima Media's Polity about the epidemic coronavirus.